PC cases. Do you go large, small, or find a happy medium somewhere in the middle? It goes without saying that buying a PC case can be somewhat confusing depending on your knowledge level. In this video, we're going to explore some small form factor cases, right through to the largest on the market, and find out what the pros and cons for each might be. Let's kick things off with Mini E-ATX. Mini E-ATX, commonly referred to as small form factor, typically occupy the smallest possible space on your desk. Mini E-ATX can usually be found in two different formats: a vertical tower style with a smaller footprint and a greater height, or horizontal with a lower height. Small form factor cases are often low cost and lightweight, which make them ideal for those seeking portability at LAN events, or those with less demand for high performance hardware, or you simply may just have limited space. Mini E-ATX motherboards are significantly smaller than their ATX counterparts, which can be good or bad, depending on your needs and requirements. A smaller ITX motherboard won't have additional PCIe lanes to support additional sound cards, for example, nor will a Mini E-ATX motherboard be able to store as much onboard SSD memory or RAM lanes. What they lack in features can be forgiven when you see their potential in small form factor builds, however. Mini E-ATX cases will more often than not come with compromises when it comes to hardware support. A smaller case size will no doubt have less cooling support or be less efficient in doing so, which in turn translates to more heat and more care when choosing processors and graphics cards. Alongside heat, hardware size restrictions also come into play. We all know graphics cards are becoming absurdly massive, and whilst it is possible to squeeze some of these titans into small cases, it's not always the best option. As noted above, airflow and heat will be the greatest challenge, and whilst we do love toasting our bread, I do not recommend toasting your CPU. Mini E-ATX cases for the most part are genuinely beautiful. Their ability to blend seamlessly into your setup whilst absolutely slaying similar sized consoles, well, that is a winner for me. The key to a successful Mini E-ATX build is to build within the parameters of what a smaller system should be. Now, let's say you want to retain a smaller size, but you need more cooling or greater hardware support. It's time to enter Micro ATX. Stepping up a notch, the main difference between Mini E-ATX and Micro ATX is overall space, or volume. This particular area within PC DIY can be very interesting, as the prices for components can be very low, undercutting more expensive ITX motherboards and often their full-sized ATX siblings too. We've recently seen an influx of Micro ATX towers spring onto the market within the last couple of years, modernising and bringing fresh air to a form factor which has felt a little swept under the table in the midst of RGB and showcases. Micro ATX can still be considered small form factor in some ways. One of the strengths of this size compared to Mini E-ATX is the ability to house more cooling. This can open the door for more performance with higher TDP CPUs, and of course, overclocking if that's your thing. It's not just about the hardware support, however. It's also important to realise that more unoccupied space within the case will often lead to less airflow restrictions and heat bleed between your components, and that is crucial to maintaining a nice and cool performance system. It's very difficult to find major cons and drawbacks with Micro ATX in general, but the main drawback to consider will be radiator lengths and graphics card thickness. It's fairly standard to see a reduction in the GPU slots on the rear of these cases due to the smaller motherboard sizes. This reduction in slots can be troublesome with modern GPUs being so thick that they often occupy 3 or more slots, and ideally you want to aim for at least an inch of clearance between the power supply shroud and the fans on your graphics card. Any less than this, you'd be increasing noise levels while simultaneously restricting the airflow being fed directly into the graphics card. As somebody who favours smaller builds, I often find myself gravitating towards Micro ATX for my personal gaming setups. There's nothing quite like seeing the internal space being fully utilised with zero wasted space. A rewarding build process, excellent hardware support, and the ability to upgrade or swap out the hardware into a larger case with relative ease. What is not to love about that? Micro ATX hits hard and gets my approval every time. The ATX tower, better known as the standard mid tower. This is the most popular choice for most gamers, and that comes with good reason too. The ATX form factor brings the sweet spot for price to performance, supporting almost every graphics card, and more importantly, bringing cooling to the forefront, along with more RGB lighting within the builds too. Mid towers excel in their ability to support large air coolers, powerful liquid coolers, and not to mention the creativity you can explore with custom water cooling. Mid-tower cases are plentiful and appeal to gamers and creators alike thanks to the motherboards being more feature-rich. More PCIe lanes, powerful processor sockets, and a plethora of tailored options depending on your budget level. It's crazy to think that you can buy an ATX motherboard for as low as $100 or go right the way up to nearly $1,000. The same can be said for cases in this area too. There's truly a case for every budget within this section. Regardless of what you spend, a modern mid-tower case will likely be focused on two different styles: the dual chamber or an airflow focused tower. Dual chamber cases strive for aesthetics above all else, putting the power supply on the back of the case, allowing for panoramic views of your hardware. That's not to say that dual chamber cases lack with airflow, they do not. Dual chamber cases usually employ bottom and side intakes with rear and top exhausts. This is more favourable for liquid cooling, as the airflow tends to be less direct and reliant on static pressure to simply move cool air in and push the hot air back out. A dual chamber case with panoramic views would typically occupy more space on your desk due to their wider footprint. This might be a deal breaker for those with limited desk space. An airflow focused ATX tower on the other hand will have a mesh front panel for air intake, along with a rear and top exhaust. This can be excellent for both liquid and air-cooled setups, as the front intake directly feeds the graphics card whilst retaining a clear, direct airflow path for coolers and radiators alike. There are many pros to mid-tower ATX cases. Some of those include limitless hardware choices, vertical graphics card support, and not to mention the fact that some even have the ability to house giant E-ATX motherboards. Upgradability will remain one of the main focuses of this form factor. Simply changing cases, upgrading your graphics card, or swapping out fans will come with ease, and it offers beginners or seasoned builders a pleasurable PC DIY journey. As for the cons, well, the biggest for me personally is the massively saturated market. Choosing the perfect case can feel like a minefield of choices. I'd personally take the time to watch some YouTube build videos to see if those case features tick the boxes for you before buying them. There's over 100 here on the Mr. Matt Lee channel, so why not go and explore them? And of course, leave a subscribe whilst you're there. That would be tremendous. So you've come this far, but you still need more cooling. Okay, I hear you. It's time to level this up once more. It's time for the full tower. The full tower PC case is not something I explore often here on the channel, primarily due to my own limited interest within this form factor. That's not to say they don't have a place within the PC DIY community. Full tower PC cases by definition house the largest and most cooling focused setups. E-ATX motherboards are right at home in this space, whilst also unlocking the door for limitless potential when it comes to custom water cooling with hardline tubes. Demanding gamers looking to push hardcore overclocks or others who simply want to display all of the RGB without restriction might consider these cases for their builds too. 420mm radiator support is commonplace in these Titan-sized cases, and it's not unusual to see an abundance of fan support to go with it. E-ATX towers are heavy, more so with one or more tempered glass panels, but those considering this form factor wouldn't usually be building with portability in mind, more a position and forget mindset. E-ATX builds are up there with some of the more expensive, extreme performance focused setups. But then on the polar opposite end of the scale, mini ITX can be very expensive with great compromises too. This leaves micro ATX and mid-tower ATX as the two most popular, for broader budget scale and ease of planning and building. Regardless of which form factor you choose to build with, the important part is to take your time, Plan your hardware and consider your intended use for the PC. Are you planning to travel with your build to events, or do you have limited desk space? Try Mini E-ATX or Micro E-ATX for a rewarding yet highly involving build process. Or if you need more airflow, greater hardware support, or simply want to keep your options open for future upgrades, then mid-tower ATX will always hit the sweet spot. Going further, if you've got the itch for epic custom loops or want to flex the greatest hardware, well, E-ATX is absolutely waiting for you. Some say building a PC is like assembling Lego, and whilst I agree to a certain extent, it's like building Lego without a manual, whilst somebody hangs over your shoulder telling you there's a better way of doing it. With so many resources readily available, including build videos on a host of educational websites, there's never been a better time to get hands-on and create your own perfect gaming setup. I guess the only question which remains is, which size will you choose? An espresso? Cappuccino? Or a latte? Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.